So the 6500 XT launched today, and I think it got a lot of people scratching their heads like, what was the point of this launch? Because it's just not a good graphics card. Hardware Unboxed named it worst GPU. I know Gamers Nexus did not like it a whole lot. Linus Tech Tips says a GPU you might be able to buy, but you shouldn't. It's just, again, a lot of people don't necessarily like it. And so it kind of had me scratching my head, well, what was the point of this graphics card? Because it's not very clear. In terms of performance, it is a huge step down compared to its next step in the lineup, the 6600 XT. It is very, very cut down in terms of feature sets. It's bottlenecked when it comes to PCIe 3.0 bandwidth. It just seems like it's just this really weird card, and it doesn't seem to be going for any sort of particular market segment. But as I did a little bit more digging and I kind of looked at some more stuff, I'm like, oh, this is what they were trying to do. So that's what I kind of want to explain to you guys today. Now, I'm not going to say that this is for sure what AMD's intention was, because I don't have any direct contacts at AMD. I wish I did, but I have no way of knowing what their complete intention was behind this card. So let's get into it. But before we do, make sure that if you end up enjoying the video, make sure to leave a like. It really helps me out. If you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. All right, so first off, this is the AMD RX 6500 XT. Also, both of these images are from the video from Hardware Unboxed. If you guys want to go check out the video, it's gonna be linked down in the description. Great video. I highly recommend it to anybody who's just looking for the numbers and figures when talking about the 6500 XT. But I want to talk about the main idea behind this card and why I think a lot of people are kind of not understanding the point of this card. So again, like the trend with the 6600 XT, the 6600, and now the 6500 XT, these things are actually launching for MSRP at most main retailers. Things like Newegg, Micro Center, which is I'm going to be using for right now, they're all selling these cards for around MSRP. You got ones going for exactly MSRP, some going for a little bit higher if you have a higher end model. But yeah, for the most part, all these things are going for MSRP, which I think was pretty hard for AMD to even hit this MSRP price point, considering the cost of raw goods right now and how much it costs for TSMC 6nm wafers. Like, it's just, again, a lot of money when it comes to even developing this sort of graphics card. And they definitely hit that mark. They were able to hit the $200 price point, which I applaud them for, but they definitely had to cut down some stuff in order to hit that price point. And I was starting to think, I'm like, well, why would you sacrifice so much in terms of performance just to hit a certain price point? And again, I didn't really get that answered until I kept on looking at stuff. And you look at it, it says PCIe 3.0 bottlenecks this thing like crazy, and that has to do with cutting this thing down. This thing's not good for mining at all. Again, it doesn't even support mining, and even if it did, it has too small of a memory bus in order to be able to do any sort of mining effectively. And it's not good for video professionals either, because it doesn't support HVAC encode or AV1D code when it comes to the kind of video sort of stuff that people might do if they are a professional. So I kept on racking my brain, and I'm like, what could they have been going for here? Because it seems like you're making everybody obsolete. You're making everybody who bought anything before a Ryzen 3rd gen CPU not being able to buy this thing, or anybody who bought an Intel 11th gen CPU completely obsolete. Like, again, you just can't buy this graphics card. It's too much of a kneecapping in terms of performance to run at PCIe 3.0 speeds, and only the newest CPUs really support PCIe 4.0. And so again, I'm like, man, really nobody can get this. People who want to upgrade, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't perform good enough compared to other lower end graphics cards. But even if you do have an older end system, it doesn't make sense, because again, it's just not going to perform well with PCIe 3.0. And I kept on thinking, scrolling through Micro Center, and I was looking through some prices and some other stuff, and I put together a build, and this is kind of when it clicked for me. I made the cheapest possible system that I could on Micro Center website. I picked the lowest end GPU you could get, which was the Power Color RX 6500 XT. I didn't pick the lowest end power supply. I could have gone with a 400 watt, because that's what AMD, I guess, recommends with this GPU. And then I got an Intel i5 11400 and H510 board. Both of these will support PCIe Gen 4, so we should get the maximum amount of performance out of this card that we can get. We also got some pretty decent RAM, a pretty nice case, and I think a pretty decent M.2 drive. And this is the first time I can ever remember seeing a system for less than $800 that you can build yourself within like 2 years. Like, this was just not a thing. You couldn't build a 1080p gaming system for less than $800. Again, it just was not a feasible thing. And then I'm like thinking about it a little bit more. I'm like, okay, another added bonus of getting the i5 11400 is that it has an integrated GPU, which supports some of the features that this thing has cut out from it. And I'm like, okay, So I guess if you pair this thing with any sort of CPU which has some sort of graphics capabilities that supports these features, it's like, okay, you're kind of mitigating the downfalls of this card. And I came to the conclusion that this card is pretty much entirely for people who are looking to get a brand new system. This is not a card for people who are looking to upgrade. This is not a card people for looking to mining or people who are looking to do productivity. This is for people who are looking to get a brand new gaming centered PC. And as I kind of thought about this more and more, it made a lot more sense. If you guys think about it, AMD has always been the company that has been behind Nvidia in terms of GPU market share. And this is one of their first products that they've had out that they've kind of beat Nvidia to the punch. Nvidia has always had the lowest end cards out for this generation. The RTX 3060 was the lowest end card for the longest time, and now it's technically not. The 6500 XT is AMD's first time that they've beat Nvidia in this current generation to the bottom. And so this kind of makes sense because AMD is going to try to scoop up as much market share as they possibly can. And the only way to scoop up new market share from people who don't already have your GPUs is to get people who have never had a gaming PC before or are looking to get a brand new one and get them as your customers firsthand. And I think that idea is even more supported by the things that they cut down in order to keep the pricing low and the availability super high. I don't think that AMD was trying to make a great GPU for this generation. I don't think that they were trying to make something for most gamers. I think that this device here isn't even necessarily for making them money. I think that this graphics card in its entirety is just there for AMD to grab a market share. Now, sure, they're making money. Like, they're not going to be selling this without making some sort of money. Again, I don't know how much money they're going to be making. I try to do some rough calculations, but it is very, very hard to do without like exact specifications of the GPU and like exact defect rates and stuff like that. But they're not making a ton on this compared to their other GPUs. Again, just by kind of the rough number crunching that I did, they can't be making a whole lot of money off of this with the raw good parts going up as much as they have been. So that's the only conclusion I could come up with, is that the entire point of this card is to just grab the market share, which I think is actually kind of a good idea. If I was someone who has never had a gaming PC before, I probably wouldn't care if this thing doesn't perform well compared to these other cards out here, because when it comes to these other cards, you can't buy them for $200. They actually cost a lot more. 1650 Super costs like $300 on eBay used. So getting a brand new 6500 XT that performs around the same thing as a 1650 Super that is brand new and it's probably going to last you a couple of years until you can actually get something a little bit better might actually make a good bit of sense. Now, if that's the main point of this graphics card, you would think that they'd be sending a ton of these GPUs out to OEMs and system integrators. But from what I've heard from my buddy in the industry, he said is like, yeah, in terms of system integrators, they're not really getting anything. I don't think he can really speak when it comes to OEMs because they have different supply chain stuff. But when it comes to like main distributors between the system integrators, they're not getting a whole lot of stuff from AMD for this particular launch. They mostly get like 6700 XTs, but 6500 XTs just aren't there. So it's just weird to me that they wouldn't try to go for the system integrator and OEM setup, since I think this would be the best market segment for them to actually get into. Instead of forcing people to like build a brand new system, if you can get in something that is lower than $1,000, because that's the first time a 1650 Super is even mentioned here. Like if you're selling these things for retail at $200, I'm pretty sure you can sell a system with a 6500 XT in it for $800, which would absolutely destroy Nvidia's claim to most of the low-end market right now. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I think that's pretty much the major point of what AMD's trying to do with this graphics card. I don't think they're trying to go for profits. I don't think they're trying to make something for people to upgrade to. I think they're just trying to grab as much new market share as they possibly can, which I don't know how that's going to work with them in terms of their strategy for making themselves a better business, but I think that's pretty much the only conclusion that I can come up to. If you guys have any other ideas of what the point of this card might be, leave those down in the comment section below. I'd love to read them, talk with you guys about those, and if you guys have any sort of questions and stuff like that for me, I'd be more than happy to answer those down in the comment section below. If you guys did end up enjoying the video, make sure to leave a like, and if you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.